Hello, my name is Ben.
My name's Josh.
Welcome back to FPL Graduates. Welcome back to another video where today we're going to be going into our teams ahead of game week 6. We're looking forward to it. Obviously, we've gone through the first 5 already. It's gone by very quickly. Let's get straight into Josh's team.
Okay, then, so I'm getting into my team this week, and I have hit my wild card going into game week 6. It's been a bit of a meh start to the season, to be honest. A few players that I picked who haven't performed, Bruno Fernandes in particular, just stands out as one of those. So yeah, we picked the wild card. Going to try and make the most of this fixture swing, especially for the Arsenal assets going forward. So starting off in goal, we've got David Raya. Had him all season long, so he will retain his place as long as he's fit. At the time of recording, he missed out of the Carabao Cup tie due to a thigh injury. I mean, we saw him walking out the Etihad with like a plaster on. I don't think it will be that serious, but we will get an update from Arteta, I'm sure, pre-deadline regarding that. Obviously, Leicester at home this week. The fixture run for Arsenal is ridiculous for the next 3. I'm happy to keep him long-term as well. Rico Lewis is up next. We spoke about him in our transfer plans video. I think even if he's benched at the weekend, there's probably a good chance that we'll know the City lineup going into the game. They'll see the half-12 kickoff against Newcastle. I think I probably would keep him, because I just think now Rodri's out, there's a good chance that Rico Lewis gets decent minutes, especially in the Premier League games after the UCL. So yeah, I really like him as an option, especially at that price, at 4.7 million to get into the City defence. It's like, I don't even care if he doesn't get any attacking returns. Like, the clean sheet potential at that price is superb. Gabriel is up next. I'll go with the double Arsenal defence rather than the double Arsenal attack, and I think that's just purely for like security reasons. I think Havertz in the midfield position doesn't really offer as much as what he does as a 9. If he was playing up top, I would definitely be going with him instead, but at the moment I'll take Gabriel with his set piece threat. We then got Van den Berg. Obviously, my defence is on the bench, as you can see, with Leif Davis and Mazraoui at the moment as well. But yeah, Van den Berg, £4 million. Bit of a risk, because obviously he's been playing in a 5-back so far, and we haven't seen Brentford go to a 4-back with him in the side yet. So, bit risky, but it could be worth the risk with Brentford's nice fixture run. Alternatively, I could have someone like Wootface here as well, who I already owned pre-wild card. So yeah, Ben, what's your thoughts on that defence?
Yeah, I mean, a solid defence, but it's expected on a wild card. Like, the double Arsenal defence is going to be sort of fairly highly owned amongst engaged managers anyway. So we're going to start to see sort of the pack filter out a little bit, and those that are sort of a more engaged start rising up the ranks. I think that's going to be expected. Rico Lewis is a nice little pick there. I think, you know, the fact that he's so cheap and gets into that City defence, you know, even if he plays sort of two out of every 3 free fixtures, you're probably going to see some value out of that anyway. And Van den Berg, I agree. I think it's a risk, especially with Brentford and Thomas Frank switching so fluidly between systems. I think there's always going to be that element of risks there associated with that. And, you know, at that price point, you sort of want to be able to sort of guarantee yourself minutes, even if he's only going to start once and come off the bench sort of once in a blue moon. You want that security of minutes just in case. So yeah, overall fairly solid start to your wildcard team.
Okay, then, so moving on to the midfield, then we obviously had Bukayo Saka at first. I had him pre-wildcard as well. Probably the most go-to asset on a wildcard, I'd say, right now, with that fixture run coming up. Leicester at home, Southampton at home, Bournemouth away next 3. Unbelievable fixtures, especially for someone who's probably going to be relied upon so much for Arsenal going forwards in that run with all the injuries they have in the attack. And Buemo's up next, again, a really solid asset. Brentford's fixture run, as I mentioned, with Van den Berg is really good. It starts getting nice after their pretty poor start, but even in that start, and Buemo did get some big returns, like that double-digit haul against Southampton. He obviously scored as well against Spurs last weekend, so expecting more from him. Big talismanic figure for them this season. The same can be said for Antoine Semenyo as well. Not on penalties, but I think he's got 2 good fixtures in the next 2. I think I have 2 free transfers as well that I'll roll out of this. Obviously, you do carry your free transfers through wildcards now, so an easy sell probably after those 2 fixtures to just bring in someone else who has a nice run. Morgan Rogers is in there as well, coming off the back of his double-digit haul last game week. Just an easy pick. He's playing so many minutes at that price point, getting involved in the returns. So yeah, £5.1 million, you can't really go wrong with him. And then my 5th midfielder on the bench is James Maddison, a nice differential. We spoke about him in the transfer plans video. I think he's just a decent option. Got high expected goal involvement so far this season. Okay, United away this week's not the best, but I've got the ability to bench him this week and then pick up that nice fixture run that Spurs go on. What's your thoughts on that, Ben?
Yeah, fairly solid midfield and a fairly standard and template midfield as well, I will say. And there is a reason behind that because all those picks look really good in isolation. Saka, I think, is if you're on a wild card, you just got to have him really. There's no doubt about it. Obviously, it's at the detriment of someone like Mo Salah, so there's always an element of risk there. And you can't have every premium look, so you're always just going to sort of have to go with those with the better fixture run and looking in good form. Saka's been pretty good throughout the season so far. And Bremer, I can agree with. Like, I think him and Semenyo, you could probably put under the same sort of hat in terms of sort of the talismanic, almost a talismanic figure there. That especially Semenyo, he's sort of starting to come into his own. And yeah, Morgan Rogers, same as me. I've got him. Let's hope that he can up that goal involvement. He's done it last week. Finally got a couple of returns. Let's see if he can continue that going against Ipswich away.
Okay, so on to the front three then. We started off with Ollie Watkins. I've had him for the last 2 game weeks, and I think I will keep him at least for this week minimum. I just don't see myself selling Ollie Watkins before that Ipswich away fixture. Obviously, it gives me a lot of money to play with as well. It also gives me time, which I think is quite valuable in the forward spots at the moment, because there are a few options that are on the cusp of my thinking, like Kai Havertz, for example, but just not too sure where he's going to play in these easier fixtures for Arsenal. So, yeah, some thoughts around him. I'm happy to keep him, though, even past that Ipswich fixture. He's returned in all of his last 3 games. Obviously, got that double-digit haul as well against Everton. Just really solid start to the season from him after obviously going on a bit of a barren run for a few games at the end of last season and at the start of this season. Erling Haaland, the no-brainer. Won't talk about him at all because obviously he's been unbelievable this season so far. And then Chris Wood as well. Fulham at home this week. I think Wood has been phenomenal to start the season. We now know he's on penalties as well, which edges him above Dominic Calvert-Lewin in my thinking. So yeah, really nice pick. 7 big chance goal involvements so far this season. Some monster numbers from him. I expect that to continue for Forest's decent run, but also I can also swap him out for Maddison or any of those bench options as well. What's your thoughts on the forward line, Ben?
Yeah, like the forward line, to be fair, like you said, no one's ever going to sell Watkins before Ipswich away. Despite sort of Ipswich looking decent at home, I think there's goals there in that game. Haaland, agreed, not too much to say, got to be in there, captaincy. It's a little bit of a tough call just because Bukayo Saka has such a nice fixture. And then Chris Wood, I agree with you there, like he's a fantastic option to have, 6.1 million. You can't complain at that. He's looking good value. Okay, so moving on into my team, we're not hitting the wild card this week. I feel like my squad's in a relatively decent shape. There's only a couple of issues really to address here, so I'm fairly happy with not going with the wild card. I'm using 2 free transfers instead. In goal, like Josh, I've stuck with David Raya. He's been fantastic throughout the season. In defence, I brought in Trent last week, and he proved that mega haul that we were not quite mega. 11 points is a decent sized haul, and we were expecting that to come anyway, so we predicted that well. Gabriel is almost definitely going to come in. Going out is Pedro Porro. Not been sort of too convinced by Porro or the Spurs defence. I think getting in a double Arsenal defence is going to be crucial, and I didn't want to sell Gvardiol because the fixture's looking decent and there's a potential that his attacking threat is going to increase a bit more with Rodri being out, the potential of someone like Kyle Walker slotting in case Rico Lewis is sort of not playing or Stones is playing in the midfield. So I quite like this back four. It's a lot of budget invested into it, but I think it can provide returns. Josh, what's your thoughts there on the defence?
Yeah, you've arguably got the best defender from all the best defences in the league. So, yeah, can't complain about that at all. Obviously, double Arsenal defence without a wild card is massive. So a really nice way to get into that for this nice fixture run. And yeah, Trent is someone who is in and out of my wildcard draft at the moment. Like it's between him or someone like a Maddison or a £7.5 million midfielder. It's just deciding whether to go with him or not. Because obviously after that Wolves fixture, the fixtures for Liverpool do get a lot harder from a defensive point of view, and I just don't see too many clean sheets in them. But obviously he does offer that crazy attacking threat. So difficult decision, but yeah, I like the look of it for this week for sure.
Okay, so moving on into the midfield, and we're going to first talk about Semenyo, who is my second transfer in. Going out is Garnacho, at least at the moment. It's going to be a toss-up between Garnacho and Gordon on who I'm going to bring out. Newcastle do look like quite bad, and Garnacho is starting to look quite good in terms of sort of potential minutes that he could get. So I'm fairly on the fence about who I'm going to bring out. I'm relatively sure it's going to be Semenyo I'm going to bring in. The only risk with that is because you can obviously see Rodgers and Smith Rowe in there as well. That's quite a lot of midfielders at the same price point. Leaves me a little bit inflexible in terms of the moves that I could potentially make in the future. Obviously, if I'm going to hit the wild card in 2 or 3 game weeks, and that negates it slightly. So, like I said, yeah, we've got Semenyo in there at the moment. Gordon or Garnacho, we'll have to wait and see on that. That'll be a fairly last-minute decision, but let's see if Garnacho comes out of the Europa League game unscathed and he doesn't start as well, which is a bonus. Salah in there as well, becoming a little bit more of a differential this week, which is fantastic. There's a case to put him on the captaincy, but Haaland is so good that we can't ignore him against a Newcastle team that doesn't look too great at all. Smith Rowe, fairly happy with him at the moment, although he's coming up a bit of a stern test this week against Forest, so let's see how he gets on. Josh, what's the thoughts on the midfield, and what's your thoughts on that transfer? So a little bit of a difficult one.
Yeah, it is. Obviously, before tonight, if Garnacho started tonight, we were recording this on Wednesday, I would have definitely have said that, yeah, to make that move, it's a no-brainer. Because he's benched, it does make him likely to play at the weekend. Obviously, he started last week as well against Palace. Thought he looked okay, nothing crazy. I mean, his performances off the bench have almost been better than when he started so far this season. So, something to take into account as well. Like you mentioned as well with Newcastle, I've been saying it pretty much since I saw them in Game Week 1 and 2. Their attack is just awful. No chances created at all. They're scoring from real low XG opportunities like we saw against Wolves. So yeah, for me, it would probably be Gordon. Now that we know Garnacho was obviously a sub against FC 20 in the Europa League. The rest of the midfield, though, looked really good. Obviously, Mo Salah, I think obviously a lot of managers wildcarding this week will be getting rid of him. This week only, this fixture looks really good. And like you say, even captainable, really, away at Wolves. Wolves, I think they conceded the second most goals so far this season, or maybe even the most at the moment. So, yeah, a nice fixture from a Liverpool attacking point of view. I can definitely see him returning in that fixture. And obviously, then everyone will be like, oh, how do I get Mo Salah back in my team? So, yeah, an interesting one for sure.
Okay, so moving on to the strike force, and we do have João Pedro, which presents a little bit of a problem to see whether he is going to be fit enough to play against Chelsea. We've seen so many rumours circulating. We'll probably find out a little bit more about his situation before the deadline. But yeah, a little bit of a difficult decision to make there. If he isn't going to be fit enough, I'm going to assume it's only for 1 or 2 game weeks where I can bring in someone like Konza off the bench, which I don't mind at all. It sort of isn't ideal to play a 4-5-1 or at least 4 at the back, but Konza's fixture against Ipswich away isn't the worst at all. And then, yeah, Haaland up front on the captaincy as well. And then on the bench, of course, Vardy, Harwood Bellis, as, sort of the fixtures dictate. Josh, what's the thoughts on the overall team?
Yeah, it looks solid. Obviously, João Pedro's a bit of a frustrating one, really. Obviously, he's not really hit the ground running. A lot of people benched him during the returns earlier in the season, and now when they want to play him, he's not being fit to play. So yeah, really frustrating asset at the moment. I probably would hold him though, just because of his price point. Not many options around that price are looking very good at all. So yeah, definitely a hold for now. See what the update is, and then go from there. And like you say, Konsa, if he does come in for this week, it's not a terrible fixture against Ipswich. They are struggling to score goals at the moment. So yeah, a nice option there. 4-5-1 for 1 week. I don't think that'll be too bad. Okay, then, so that's our team reveals for Game Week 6. Let us know what you think of my wildcard in the comments, and also Ben's dilemmas with his transfers. What do you think we should do? Is there some big picks that I'm missing? Do you think it should be Garnacho or Gordon? Let us know.
Yeah, and as always, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe to the FPL Graduates. I've been Ben.
I've been Josh.
And we'll see you guys
next time. Have a good game week, everyone.
So you may rise, but you'll never make me wanna stick